So in this video, we will be solving weekly contest 205. So let's start with the first question. So the question is, you are given a string S. It will only contain lowercase English letters, and it will contain a question mark character. So now you just have to replace the question mark with any English alphabet, right? So into any lowercase character. But the requirement is when you replace it, then it should not contain any consecutive repeating characters, and you can only modify a question mark. And it is given that whatever characters are given except for question mark, there will be no repeats, right? Otherwise the solution will not be possible. For example, there will be no input like question mark AA, because then there is already a repeat and you can't do anything about it, and you can only change question mark. And then you have to give any possible answer. So it is not, you don't have to replace question mark with anything specific. So let's look at the example. So if it is question mark Z and S, then you can replace this question mark with anything except Z, right? So there are 25 solutions for this. Similarly, UVW, so there are 24 solutions for this. What are the two exceptions? V and W can't be in the place of question mark. So this is like what we have to observe about question mark, that there can be at most two neighbors, right? So similarly, if JQ, G, question mark B, so this question mark cannot be J or Q, and this question mark cannot be G, and whatever this is, this question mark cannot be that, and this question mark cannot be B. So something like that. So so how I solved it is, so I observed that there can be at max two neighbors for a question mark. So I need to check only those two neighbors, and if I check those two neighbors, and I can put any value except those two neighbors. So what I will do, I'll start from left and keep checking for both neighbors. Like for the first element there will be one neighbor, but in general I'll be checking for both the neighbors, and I'll just try to put any other value except for those two neighbors, right? So there are multiple ways to do this thing, that put anything except for two neighbors, right? But I will use one technique which will be like cycling over three different values. So I'll tell you what that is. Right, so first I'll just split it into an array because I like to work with arrays more. So we will split string into an array. Now it is an array of characters, and there will be question marks as well. So now let replacement be this thing. This can be any three characters, I think. So now basically why three? Because as I said, that one question mark can have at most two neighbors. Now those two neighbors can be B and C. In that case I will choose D. If those two neighbors are C and D, in that case I'll choose B. If they are B and D, then I'll choose C. In any other case, any of them will be valid, right? So if you think about all the possibilities of neighbors, one of these can always be a solution, right? For example, if you choose A, B, then C can be a solution. If you see AC, so basically if you just try to think about this, one of these three can always be a solution. So out of any three characters, one of them can be a solution, right? So this is the observation which I made. There might be other easier solutions maybe, but that is how I did it. So what happens now is, if both of the characters of both of the neighbors are alphabets, then you need to choose the one which does not match. So that we can do. Okay, cool. And if there are multiple question marks, then basically because we are moving from left to right, then on the left I will always have at least one neighbor. So if there is only one neighbor, then I just need to avoid that neighbor. So even if I replace these two question mark with something, when I reach this question mark, again there are only two neighbors, so we don't need to worry because one of these three will be able to solve it, right? So we will just try to implement this. So let IDX be the index of which character in replacement I'm going to be using. So we will just keep cycling IBX over all these three characters, and first I will use B, next I'll try to use C, next I'll try to use D, then I'll try to use B, something like that. So now let's n be the length of string. Then we iterate over the array. Right. So now if character is a question mark, so if character is a question mark, then we just do this. SFI is equal to, we replace it with this replacement thing, and then we use the index where we are. So now whenever I'm at any index and I consume it, I'll just cycle the index to next one. But this index can go away out of the bounds, so we will just modulo it with 3. Right? So instead of that, I'll just use this. So basically this will cycle it. Whenever it goes above, it will again start at the beginning. So I'll replace this with itx is equal to itx plus 1 modulo 3. Right. So this is how we will do. We will just replace it. But now what can happen is that I replaced it with some character which was equal to its neighbor. Right. So what I do is I check. So let me check with the right neighbor first. So if I is, so for right neighbor to exist, we need to be less than n minus 1. If I is and less than n minus 1, and s of I is equal to s of I plus 1. So basically I by mistake choose a character which matches one of the neighbors. And then basically I do this again. So basically now I am choosing the next character, right? So suppose there was question mark, I replaced it with, let's say, B, right? So now I replaced it with B, that is okay. But now there are two neighbors. So one neighbor is on the right. Suppose that neighbor is again B. So first case is that neighbor is anything, like apart from B, then we are okay. Then this thing will not execute. But if that is B, I will convert this character to C. But now if I converted it to C and the previous character was C, right, then what will happen is now I'll have to convert it to D. So similarly for left neighbor, I will check if I is greater than 0 actually, because 0 does not have a left neighbor. If it is, then I do exactly the same thing. I already cycled, then I just consume it. Right, so what is the trick, what is the technique which we are using? Replace with any of these characters and check both the neighbors and cycle it. So at least one of these three should satisfy the condition. Like, so basically either B, C, D or C, D, B, something like that. Because as I mentioned, there are only two neighbors, so at 1 out of 3 should be satisfying it, and we just return them. Right, so let's run it. So it's a for loop. Oh, okay. So we just need to check if there is any duplicate. So BV, BW. Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. GV, GCDB. So there is no duplicate. So this should work fine. So to repeat again, the observation is that one question mark can have at max 2 neighbors. So we need 3 options, and we just cycle through these options. So because the string of length is very small, should not matter. So this is done. I'll try to submit to see if it is correct. So that this is accepted. So this is the first question, right? We just try to replace it with everything. So cool. So let's try to solve the second question. So given two arrays nums1 and nums2, return the number of triplets formed by type 1. So basically you have to form triplets of 2 type, right? So first triplet will be ijk. So basically you have to form 2 kinds of triplets, and the triplets are of, let's say, indices ijk and ijk. So what is type 1 triplet? So our triplet ijk will be called type 1 if nums1 I square is equal to nums2 j into nums2 k. So basically the triplet says that any one element of nums1 is product of 2 distinct elements of second array, And type 2 is similar, but like the one element of nums2 is basically multiplication of two distinct elements of nums1, right? So nums2 I square, so the square of the element in nums2, right? So that's what, yeah. So this is what we want to do. So let's look at some example. So if 7, 4 and 5 to 8, 9, so basically if I look at 7, so 7 square is 49, and because 7 is a prime, we need to have two 7s, so 7 will not be in any triplet. So now right now we are looking at triplet of type 1, where we are squaring the number in first array. Then 4 square is 16, then we can have 2 into 8, right? So this is one triplet. Now if I look at second, then 5 square is a prime, then we needed to have two. So basically now, so for type 1, we had two options and 4 is one valid candidate. So so right now the answer is 1. And then we will see if we have any type 2 triplet. So if you look at 5, then 5 square can only be broken down into 5 into 5 or 1 into 25. Sorry, same for 49. But yeah, so there is no 5 into 5 or 25 into 1. So for 2 into 2 there is 4, but you can't multiply it with anything. And 8 square is 64, and there are only 2. 9 square is 81, and there is only 2, which is not equal to 81, right? So the output is only 1. So let's look at this example where there are some more. So if you look at 7, 7, 8, 3, so let's try to look at type 1. 7 square, so it has to be 7 into 7, not there. 49 into 1 is also not there. So the same for this 7. Similarly for 8, 8 to 64, we can't have 64 by multiplying 2. Then 3 square is 9, then we actually have 9 into 1. So that is one type 1 triplet. Now look at type 2 triplet. So 1 square, we don't have 1 into 1. 2 square is 4, we don't have 4's factor. 9 square, 81, we don't have, but 7 square, which is 49, and we actually have 7 into 7. So these two elements will be considered distinct because we are talking about the distinct indices. When I mentioned a distinct element, I meant like distinct indices, right? So that's why we can take 7 into 7. So that's how, like the type 1 triplet is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 0, 2. So this one, and the type 2 triplet is 3 and 0, 1. 0, 1, right? So that's what we need to do. So how do we solve this question? So because all the possibilities are here, right? So this is where the solution will become quadratic, and because the length is only 1000, we can just brute force over all the possible products, and we just need to check if this product is the square root of this product is present in nums1 array, right? So hope that makes sense, because this is just simple brute force, and this can be done using map. So we iterate over all the possible products and we just check if, so basically we can so we iterate over all the products and take its square root and just see in a map that if nums1 is there, that if it is there, then triplet will be there, right? But there will be multiple triplets if the occurrence of nums1 is more than 1, right? For example, if you look at this case, so suppose we are iterating over all the products, and right now we are looking at these two indices. So 1 into 1 is 1 and the square root is 1. So however many occurrences of 1 are there, that many triplets will be formed of type 1. Right, so that's it. So that's what we want to do. Iterate over all the possible products, search for this number in the set, and set for nums1, and so basically you can also search in the array, but that will take linear time. But using a set or a map, you can do this in constant time. So if you have that, then you can just append the count of these numbers into your answer, right? Hope that makes sense. So the implementation is not very tricky. So I'll remove everything, right? So now basically we want to make that set, and that set has to be a kind of multi-set. Basically it should be able to give me the frequency of any element, right? So for example, when I was iterating over this, it should tell me that in nums1 there are 2 1s, right? So we will call it a counter. So I'll make a function counter which will give me a frequency map. So for every element in array, this frequency map should be able to give me how many of individual element there are, right? So that is easy. So for so you can implement this in multiple way. In Python, I think counter is already inbuilt. So we iterate over all elements of array and see if x is already present in frequency, right? So basically we have already visited x. So let's look at an example: 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 4, 3. So when we commit 1, x in frequency is not there, right? Nothing is there in frequency. Then we need to put it. Oh, if x is already in frequency. So if it is not in frequency, we just put it. That means now we have one occurrence of this. So when I came at 1, I will say frequency of 1 is 1. When I come to 3, then I say frequency of 3 is 1. But when I come to 1 again, then I see that it is already there. Then I just increase it by 1. Then I just return this frequency. So for this array, this frequency should be something like this. So 1 will be 2 times, 3 will be 2 times, and 4 will be 1 time. So this will just give me the frequency. So let's call this f1 for f1 will be counter for nums1. So frequency 1, and const f2, let's call it frequency 1, and frequency 2 will be for counter nums2. So now we have frequency. That is all right. Now we just iterate over everything, right? So first we will look at type 1 or whatever. So the order doesn't matter. First we look at type 1 and let answer be our number of triplets is equal to 0, right? So how many type 1 will be there? So type 1 we will have to iterate over the second array. So for let I is equal to 0 is less than, so we are iterating over the second array. This is done, right? And then we have to iterate over 2 elements. So let's j is equal to I plus 1, j is less than nums2 dot length and j, right? So now we just do this. One more thing actually. So we are what I mentioned was that you can just multiply those 2 elements and look for the square root. So one more thing which we can do is, instead of looking for the square root, I'm not sure if there can be negative numbers, so yeah, that should not matter. But instead of looking at the square root, what you can do is, like in the count, in the frequency map, you can just put the squares itself, right? So because in the frequency map we'll always be looking for the square and never for the individual element, we can just put squares there, right? So instead of putting x, we will say, so instead of putting x, we will say const square is equal to element, right? And we actually put the square in the frequency array. So now for 1, 3, 1, 4, 3, my frequency array will look something like this. So 1 square is 1, it will be 2 times, but now 3 square will be 9, and 9 will be occurring 2 times, and for 4 it will be 16, and it will be occurring 1 time. So just think about this 10 to the power 5, that in your language it can go beyond integers limit, but in JavaScript that is fine for 10 to the power 5. So I will use this. So now instead of making a set of individual elements, I am making set of square itself, because we only need to look up squares. So that's it. And now we are, for type 1, we are iterating over the second array, and we will get the square. So we will see const product is equal to nums2. We are looking at nums2, then I into nums2j, and if this product is in so we are iterating over 2, so we need to look in frequency 1. If it is in frequency 1, then we add answer, we add to the answer how many times it is there, right? So as I mentioned in this case, that if you're iterating over all the elements, and if I'm looking at 1 into 1, if you have any other example, no. So if I look at 1 into 1, then how many ones are there? 2. So basically this pair will add 2 to the answer, right? So that way. So that's why we are counting frequency. So that's done. Now we need to do exactly the same thing with the first array for type 2 triplet. So now we replace, it's generally not a good idea to copy paste, you can miss something, but if you are careful that is okay. So because this is a small code, I'll do it, but even then you should be careful. Right, so what we did here for type 2 is now we are iterating over nums1 and we are just taking the product and we are just checking if that product is present in the frequency of second square, frequency of squares of second array, right? So done. Now we can return the answer. So we'll use the example test cases and see. Runtime error. Answer is not defined because answer is not a, so I'm number of triplets. So that's it. So now run code and 1920 we'll try to submit it. There might be corner cases. So this one is also accepted. So this is question number 2. Let's look at question number 3. So last one was like the second question was mostly kind of brute force, but you need to like observe where to brute force. So that is the trick. So minimum, this is the third question. Minimum deletion cost to avoid repeating letters. Okay. So given a string s and an integer's cost, where cost I is the cost of deleting the character I. So if you delete any character, you have to pay this much cost based on that index. All right. Return the minimum cost of deletion such that there are no two identical letters next to each other. Okay. Notice that you will delete the chosen characters at the same time. In other words, after deleting the character, the cost of deleting other characters will not change. But I think what they are trying to say here is, suppose you are looking at suppose you are looking at AABAA and you delete this A, right? So you are saying that these two are consecutive and you delete any one of them. Cost, let's not look at the cost. But if you delete this and then the string will become actually ABAA, then actually the cost will not be 1 2 3 4. It will still be 2 3 4 1. So they are saying that you delete all at once. So basically I think they are trying to make us clear that we don't confuse that costs are changing when we delete a character, right? So you just assume that you are picking characters, which characters to delete, and you pick the cost and you just delete all of them at once, right? So that's it. So for example, if I look at this case, ABAAC, so which character do I need to remove? I have two options. I have to remove one of them, right? So the costs are 3 and 4. So I just need to remove one of them and I want the cost to be minimum. So I will just remove the one with the cost 3. So minimum cost basically. So that's it. So suppose now I have ABC, so nothing is repeating. So I don't need to delete anything. Cool. So if I look at AABA, now this is repeating. So now costs are 1 and 2. So I will remove the one with cost 1. If I look at A and A, then the costs are 4 and 1. I'll remove the one with cost 1 and the total cost will be 1 plus 1, which is 2. Right, so that's it. So this is the question. So how I solved it is, like, what you can observe is if there is any repeating characters, you have to choose one option among them and that option is the minimum of them, right? So somehow if I'm able to split the string into different set of characters, right? So basically whenever there is a repetition, there will always be one group. For example, if I'm looking at AABAA, my group will look like AA, then second group will be only B, third group will be AA. Right, so let me just delete the code. So if my string was AABAACDDDEEF, then my group will be looking like AAB, AAC, DDD, EEF, right? So this is what I want to achieve, because as I said that once you basically as I said, in this group we have to convert this group to only one occurrence, right? This to only one, so output will actually be this. If we do the operation, the output will be A, B, A, C, D, E, F. So from each of the group, only one member can make it to the list, right? So if we make this group, then what we can do is we can just see the corresponding costs. C, like cost 1, cost 2. So basically, yeah. So for every element in this group, I'll have the cost as well. And what I need to do is I have to delete every one of them, right? For example, if DDD is there, then I have to delete 2 characters from here. So basically I want to minimize this cost. So if there are 3 numbers like 1, 2, 3, and I have to choose I have to minimize cost of two deletions, then you can say that you can choose the minimum two elements, right? Or there is one more way to look at it, just leave the maximum number, because minimum two will be difficult to find, because suppose you had something like a and too many A's, and suppose I'm not counting how many A's are there, but suppose okay, let's say these are 10 A's, let's say there are 5 A's, then there will be 5 costs, right? So if you want to find minimum 4, then you'll have to sort and do something. Instead, it is easier to find just the max. So just you just keep the max. So basically, what will be the minimum cost of removal? Sum of least 4, and in general sum of least n minus 1. So which is equal to sum of all minus max element. So this is what we will do, right? So that's how. So basically, if you have to remove everything and you have to minimize it, just leave the max element. So what are our steps? So we break into groups where each group will only contain one kind of character, consecutive, right? And then we group cost in a similar way. So basically, there will be a corresponding group for the cost, and in each group we have to do this. Sum of all minus max element. If there is only one element, right, then it will automatically become 0. So that will not be a corner case again. So for example, this will automatically be solved, because if A is only there, then the sum will be the cost and max element will also be the cost. So that's it. So we'll try to solve it this way. So let's try to write the code. So I'll just split it because easier to work with array. Split, then I split it, then I want to make groups. So let's make groups, and then we iterate over all of them. Is less than n. We don't know what is n, so n is actually cost dot. Okay, so it will be equal, but it will be cost dot nth, and then ni plus plus. So now what we have to do is, suppose I'm looking at index I and I want to group all those which are equal to this, then what we do is let consecutive chars something. If so we will collect all those consecutive characters in this array inside the bigger array, and then we are starting at I. So there are other ways to do it, like you can just look at the previous one as well. So when you're iterating, you just see if I'm equal to the previous one, I'll just keep pushing it to consecutive chars, but I'll do it this way. So this is just implementation detail. While I is less than n, then s of I is equal to s of start. Yeah, so so what we did was if we are starting with an index I, we start with index I and we keep iterating till we reach the end, and we see if the character is same, then we just push it. Right, consecutive characters dot push, we push I. Right, so we are pushing just index right now because we will see why I'm pushing only index, but let's see. So now we will increment I. Right, so if you think about this, so this is the implementation, and then when we have this, then we can push this consecutive character to groups. Consecutive chars. Right, so now what will happen is this loop will form groups like AA, B, AAC, DDD, right? This will actually push these groups. So consecutive chars will contain these groups, indices of that. So I'll just see how it looks in a while. So this is what. But there is one bug, which is like when you're at B, right? So this condition will fail then. Now what happens is you exit this while loop, and if you go to this for loop, this I++ will actually increment this B to A. You will miss this character B. So for that we will just remove this, because iteration will be taken care by this plus plus. Right? So this is just implementation detail. There might be other ways to do it. So you can just think about it. So I'll just print groups now, and we will use a example, something like where we know there will be multiple groups. So use example test case. This will have multiple test groups, so so I'll use that one. So this one I'll just print it to also check if the implementation is correct. So see how many groups are there: 0, 1, then 2, and then 3, 4. Right? So that's how. So these are the groups we actually wanted. Now that is so instead, while I'm making these groups, I can just group the cost itself, right? Because we wanted to make groups of cost. So I'll just put cost here, and we will have what we wanted. We will have a group of costs. So okay, the costs are 4 in 1. So yeah, right. So this is what we wanted. Let's run it for all the cases to see if it is working fine. Right. So for ABAC, there will be only one group which has 2 elements. So which is 1, 2, like 1, 2, then 3, 4, and then 5, right? For ABC, there will be individual elements 1, 2, 3. So this grouping is correct. Now this is that thing. For every group, I need to just have sum of all minus max element, right? So we iterate over all the groups. So let the answer and then for the group of groups. So hopefully it's groups, which is correct. Now we need to do is answer plus sum of group. So sum is not defined, I'll have to write it. Sum of group and then minus. Right, so this thing. And then what is sum? So function sum, and we will take an array and we will return. So summing array I'll not explain. So this is language dependent and you can just loop over it. If I made a bug, then we will fix it later. So this is what I explained here, that if you have a group and you need to minimize the cost, you will just leave the max element and remove everyone else, and the cost will be sum of all minus max element. Right? For example, if you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have to remove all the A's, so to minimize the cost, I will try to choose the minimum 4. And to choose the minimum 4 and leaving only max, it's easier to do sum of all minus max element, right? This can be done in linear time. So that is what we will do. Cool. So I think this should be our answer. Let me see if anything else needs to be done. So I'll just run code on the given test cases first. 302 and 302. So that is correct. So I'll just try to submit it. This is accepted. So one minor thing, you can in JavaScript you can also do something like this. So you're reducing a group answer plus sum of current minus, and the initial group is nothing but 0. Right, so you can just return this as well. So you can try this. I'm not sure if it will work. Let's try to run it once. Start reduce. Cool. Run. Working fine. So yeah, so that this is similar what we did in the loop earlier. So I'll just try to submit it. So yeah, so this is just for JavaScript developers, and also you can just put this sum also here, but that will be too much. So yeah, so this is question number 3rd, I think. Cool. Yeah, so I'll just explain it once more. So what we did here was if we are so we have to basically split into consecutive element groups, and from every group I have to remove all the elements except for one. If I want to minimize the cost, I will leave the element which has the maximum cost. And how I did it, like I made group of costs, and from every group I just left the max element, so the cost will be sum of all elements minus max element, and summing all of those will give me the answer. So that's it. And now let's look at, I think this is 3rd, and now we will look at last question, which is hard. So this will not be very beginner friendly, but there are some techniques which you need to know. Let's see. So basically I was not able to prove my solution, but I'll give you my idea, and it was accepted. So I'll read about like the correctness of it. But remove max number of edges to keep graph fully traversable, which is a good statement. Like it sounds cool. So as a problem, so Alice and Bob have an undirected graph. So you can just think about a general problem, right? So if you have a graph and you have, so basically, and if you have to remove some of the edges so that it is again connected, that is also a popular problem. But let's see what this problem is. So Alice and Bob have an undirected graph. So first it is undirected, there is no direction. So you can move in both ways in an edge of n nodes and 3 type of edges, but edges are of 3 type now. So there is type 1 edge. So if there is edge of type 1, then only Alice can travel it, right? If there is type 2 edge, then it can only be traversed by Bob. If there is type 3 edge, it can be traversed by both Alice and Bob, right? So given an array of edges, so you're just given n, like how many nodes are there, and you're just given an edges. So edges format is type and then starting point and ending point. And because it is bidirectional, it does not matter. So you can go from ending to start as well. Now is what you have to find. Find the maximum number of edges you can remove. Oh, cool. Okay. Find the maximum number of edges you can remove. So what did I do? Just give me 1 second. Oh, my solution. Let me just think about if my solution is correct. Find the maximum number of edges you can remove so that. Okay. The starting point you can reach all other nodes. Yeah, so I was just looking at my solution to understand. I just got one. I just got confused in something. Cool. So like I'll just explain the question again. So basically, you're given type of edges, and what you have to find is find the maximum number of edges you can remove, so that after removing the edges, the graph can still be fully traversed by both Alice and Bob. The graph is fully traversed means if you start from any node, they can reach all other nodes. Cool. And find the maximum number of edges you can remove, or return -1 if it is impossible for the graph to be fully traversed. So basically, maximum number of edges you can remove, even if you don't remove anything and you can't traverse the full graph, then you have to return -1. So let's look at one example. So I'll not read the example, but we will just look at the picture. So type 1, type 2, type 3. So type 1 is red. So this is for Alice. Then so Alice is this one, and this one, and type 2 is this green only, right? So let's just look if what we can remove. So 2 and 3 are connected by this blue. Can we remove this blue is first question. So now observe, if I remove this blue, right, then actually both Alice and Bob will lose this road. So let's consider Alice's case. So suppose I'm removing this blue edge, then Alice will be able to travel from 3 to 1, 1 to 2, and from 4 to 4 as well. But Bob will not be able to travel, right? He can travel from 1 to 2 and 3 to 4, but not 2 to 3, because there is no type 2 edge from 2 to 3. So we can't remove this, but we can very easily remove this this red edge between 1 and 2, because Alice can travel using this blue edge as well. So we remove this one edge, right? So if you look at Bob's case, he has only one possible way, like 4, 3, 2, this one. So if we remove any of these 3 edges, like 1, 2 blue, and 2, 3 blue, and 3, 4 blue, green, then Bob will not be able to travel. So we can't remove any of those. So let's look what we can do for Alice. We can remove this red edge, then it's connected 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you see that 1, 2, 3, 4, we again have this is connected, and this and these 2 edges, one of them is redundant, or both of them are redundant. So I've removed this. I can go from 1 to 2, I can go from 2 to 3, I can go from 3 to 4. Right, so I removed this, and I removed this and this as well. So how is output 2? Cool. 3. Oh, because Alice cannot travel from 3 to 4. So that means I cannot remove this 2 to 4 because 2 to 4 is only connected by a red or green edge, and I can only travel with green, so I can't delete this. So I can delete these two edges, 1 and this 1 3, 1 2 and 1 3 I can delete. Right? If I delete these two, then Alice can also travel using blue edge. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then 2 to 4 is also connected. So all of those are connected. Cool. So let's look at second example for one more explanation. So if you look at Alice's possibility first. So from 4, Alice can travel to 1 using this red edge, and from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 only blue edge is there. So if you remove this blue edge, 1 and 2 will not be connected and no one can travel. So you can't remove any of the blue edges because 3 is only connected by blue edge. Similarly, by symmetry, because red and green are like exactly similar, so you can't remove any blue for like basically you can't remove any blue, and you remove if you remove red, then Alice can't travel. If you remove green, then Bob can't travel. So you can't remove anything in this case. And now look at this case. So 3 and 4 is only connected by green edge, and there is no other way to reach 4. That means Alice can't travel the whole graph. Similarly, 2 and 1 are only connected by red edge, and there is no other way to reach 1, so Bob can't reach node number 1, so the output is -1. Even if you don't remove anything, you can't traverse the graph. So this is the question, and how I solved it is so basically we have to find a redundant edge. That is second thing, but first one observation is that you don't want to delete edge of type 3. Why? Because if suppose there was one, so what is the case when edge of type 3 will be redundant? So basically I'm defining redundant edges as the edges which I will be removing. So when will type 3 edge will be redundant? So it will be redundant when there is so basically type 3 is a road for both of those, right? So basically if I have to remove one edge of type 3, that is equivalent to basically removing one road for Bob and one road for Alice, right? So instead it will be better that I remove 2 other edges in place of this blue edge, right? So this is what I thought. So the redundant edge should never be of type 3, right? Unless there is no other option, right? So if all the edges were blue here, then we can remove some blue edges. But if there is some option like to remove either blue or some colored edge, we would also want, I think we will always want to remove a colored edge other than blue, right? So that is I was not able to prove this during the competition, but this is my intuition, so I'll code along this intuition that a type 3 edge will never be redundant. So how do you figure out which is redundant? Right, so how did I do it is like suppose you start building edges, right? So basically you start connecting the components. So if you start by each edge, so let me look at this, right? So suppose you are looking at 3 1 2. So this is so now while finding redundancy, we will make 2 kind of components. One component will be for Alice and one will be for Bob. So whenever I find an edge of type 3, I will add that component to both Alice and Bob's set, right? So suppose I have 3, so 3 1 2. So this edge, now these 2 nodes are in both Alice and Bob's component, right? So I can't actually cool. So now 1 and 2 are connected in both Alice's and Bob's component, right? Now if you look at the second edge 2 3, now 2 and 3, so 1 2 and 3 are in both Alice's and Bob's component. Cool. So both component look like 1 2 3. Now I got 1 1 3, so 1 3, right? Yes. So now what happens is so because this is type 1, I will only look at the set of Alice. So as in Alice's set, 1 2 and 3 are already there. When I add this edge, I will actually make a cycle, right? Or instead of that, you can think that these 2 nodes 1 and 3 are already in the same connected component, right? Because 1 2 and 3 are already connected because of these edges for Alice. So that's why this edge is redundant. I will not add it. Similarly, when I go to 1 to 4, then 4 and 2 are not in same component because the component which we have is only 1 to 3. So we will add this edge. This is not redundant. So this was redundant, one edge was removed. Then 1, 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 are in same component. So for ls, 1, 2, 3 and 4 are in the same component now. Right? So I should actually draw this somehow. Cool. So let me just so I'll just edit this. Yeah, I don't want to open any other application. So let me see if this works. Yeah, so this is editable. Now after first edge, if I look at first edge, right, 3, 1, 2. So suppose this is LS's component, this is Bob's component. So for LS, component will be 1, 2. There will be only one component 1, 2. And for Bob also there will be only one component 1, 2. Right? When we look at 7 edge, now 2 and 3 are also connected. So the component will be 1, 2, 3 for LS, and component will be 1, 2, 3 for Bob as well. Right? And when we look at this edge, it is only concerning LS. So for LS, 1 and 3 are already in same component. Right? So because 1 and 3 are in same component, this edge is redundant, we will not consider it. If I look at 1 to 4, 4 is not in this component, so we'll add 4 to this component and this edge is not redundant. If I look at 1, 1, 2, 1, 2 are in same component, so this edge is redundant. If I look at 2, 3, 4, so this is for Bob, and for in Bob's component 3 and 4 are not connected yet, so that's why I'll add 4 to this, and this edge is not redundant now. Right? So that's the way. So that is how we will do it. And how to do this connected component thing? This is a popular question, that's why you need some knowledge for this. So there is something called union find problem. I'll be using that solution to find these connected components, right? So that I'll just use that to find the components. So what happens is now, so whenever I'm iterating over an edge, as I said that I don't want to delete third edge, right? Edge of type 3. So I will sort this array so that all the type 3 edges are in the front or in the beginning, so that I get to see if so basically whenever, so the redundant edges will always come towards later, right? So for example, the first edge will never be redundant. So that's why I will start with three type 3 edges, and then we will go towards that side. Because of that thing I told, right? It will be not a good idea to remove type 3, and that's just intuition right now. Maybe we can prove it, but yeah, I'll do it that way. And then for that component thing, I'll be using union find. But finally, we also have to check when we have made all those components, right? In the end, the components should have the size of the graph. For example, if you do this thing, when you look at this edge, then for both Alice and Bob, the components will be 2 and 3. When you do this, the component for Alice will become 1, 2, 3, and after this, the component for Bob will become 2, 3, 4. Right? But both the components have size 3. So that means that it is not possible, because if Alice and Bob want to travel the whole graph, then the component size should be 4. Right? So that is the observation, and that is what we will implement. Cool. So the union find code I did not write, I just copied it. So I'll just share the credit. So this is the link. So I copied the code from this repo. I'm just giving the credit. So union find, what it does is this will give this, you will be able to do those operations that connect, add something to a component and tell me if two different things are in a same component, right? So this is a union find problem. You can read about it, what it does. So union find implementation. So this is just that problem that we can just connect these two. So now I am making one frequency array like we made in, I think, second problem. So this is exactly same. You can just read it. We are counting something. We'll count something, then we will use it. Cool. So now we will try to implement our solution. Make it full screen. So how do we start with this? So now first, let ls, I'll just name it ls union, it's fine, and then size will be actually n+1 because the edges are actually indexed starting from 1 to n, so we need to have a little implementation detail, but yeah, because we want to keep the number n also in this array, in this data structure, so it should be n+1. And find n+1. So this is what we want. So these data structures, union find data structure, will contain those components. Cool. Now I'll sort the edges. So as I said that I want to use type 3 first, so I will sort it using a dot the first element, because first element is the type. If I do this, this will be increasing order. So first will be first, second will be second, and third will be third. But if I reverse it, then it will be now descending order based on type. So now edges of type 3 will be first. So let our answer or the number of edges I can remove maximum will be stored in answer. Now we'll iterate over all the edges. Type, then start, and then end of edges. So I'm iterating over all the edges now, and I will do that thing which I mentioned, that basically making components and checking what edge is redundant, right? Cool. So now I need to do this for 3 cases. You can use switch case as well. If type is 1, else if type is 2, else that means type is type is 3. You can write it in the way you want, right? So that is done. So now if type is 1, I need to see if edges are connected, right? So if type is 1, I'll just check if this edge is redundant or not. So how will I find out if it is redundant? I need to find if the start node and end node are already in the same component. So how this union find is implemented, that's why it's not a very beginner thing, but how this union find is implemented, this is a union find terminology. You actually you do something like this. So type 1 is for ls, so only ls I need to look for find. So I find the component number in a way for start, and if that component number, so basically I was making component like this, right? But there can be multiple components as well, right? So there will be a component number associated to each of them. Let's not look at the detail how that will be, but let's assume that there is a component number, and we see if find end. So if start and end are in the same component, then that means the edge is redundant, as we mentioned earlier, right? That means they are already connected, they are in the same component, so that means this edge is redundant. If they are not, then we actually need to link those components. So basically we add those two, right? So this data structure help us connecting these start and end. So these terminologies are based on the implementation. So that's it. So as I mentioned, like when we were talking about this thing and we reached this edge, which is 1, 1, 3, 1 and 3 were already in the same component, right? 1, 2 and 3. Because of these two edges, it was already there. Then we just increment the answer because now this edge is redundant. But if we find anything new, then we have to add it to this component. So that is what we are doing. And this data structure will help us. And for type 2, we have to do exactly same thing, just for B. So you might wanna type it again so that you don't make any mistake. But so if it is a type 2 edge, we just need to check in the set of Bob. See, I forgot this one. So yeah. So if it is type 2, then you only need to look in the set for Bob, and That's it. If that edge is already so if those start and end points are already connected, then this edge is redundant, and you increase the answer by 1 because you can remove this. Otherwise, you connect those vertices. So that's it. And what do we do if it is of type 3? Now this is a little bit interesting. So now what you do is, so if it is type 3, then you need to look in both of the components. So you need to look, so how will this edge be redundant, right? This edge will be redundant when in the set of A, start and end are connected, and also in B, right? So if it is connected, then only we remove. Else, so you can think about this in, we have some example here. No, so suppose because we are already starting with 3, right? So suppose there was a blue edge between 1 and 3. 1 and 3. So now, so suppose there were an edge between 1 and 3. So when we looked at 1 and 2, then in both Alice and Bob's set we have 1, 2. When we see at 2 and 3, then in both the set we have 2 and 3, 1, 2 and 3. Now if I look at 1 and 3, then I need to check that can it add any value to either Alice or Bob. If it can't add any value to both, then it is redundant and we remove it. Otherwise we can include this edge in both of them. Done. So this is my answer is, but there is a case I'll tell you. So this is done. Oh my god. Oh, this is else and this is for. Then we just return answer. Done. But we have not handled this case where we have to return -1. But let's just run it to see if there is any other syntactic error or. That's why A is not defined. Oh, cool. Oh man. So for Alice I have used A and for Bob I have used B. So instead of that I need to use, I'll use proper names just so that it's clear. Wow. And now we might miss some of those, but hopefully we'll get an error. So easy way was to just rename these two to A and B, but I wanted this to be a little bit more readable, but I forgot it. Right, so when we were talking about A and B, those were Alice and Bob. We'll try to run it once more. So 2, 0, -1. So -1 case is failing, we need to handle it. So now generally what union find data structure actually give, it can actually give you, oh, interesting. It can actually give you size of the components as well, but this implementation does not give that size, right? So I'll just write a very trivial kind of implementation which will give me size as well. I did not try to change the code which was existing there. So I will try to write a minimal like very brute force kind of approach to find the size. So now basically we are able to find that how many edges need to be removed. So that part is done. And to see if everything is connected or not, you can do DFS as well, right, based on what edges you remove. But from the union find, this is a little bit implementation dependent, so I will do this. So now, as I said, that every node which you add to a component will remember which part of which component number it belongs to, right? So if you know node root union find algorithm, that will be the parent of that component, and in this data structure, that parent is called roots. Root, and there is an array inside that data structure which is roots. So I will pick that up, right? So basically now what is happening is, suppose 1, 2, 4 are in a component, right? So how union find works is, when you connected 1 and 2, right, I can say that component number of 2 is 1. So basically root of 2 is 1, right? And when I connected 4 and 2, so there are two ways. What I can say is like to see what is the parent of 2 and connect 4 to that. That way 2 and 4 will both have same parent. And second case is I just say that parent of 4 is 2. So while I'm looking later, I can find who is the main parent. For example, if I just look at 2, it will be 1 because parent of 1 is by default 1. And when I look at 4, I'll see the parent is 2, but then I see that parent of 2 is actually not 2 but 1, so I will update the parent of 4 to 1 as well, right? So that is what. So in this way, what happens is every component will know who its parent was. Now what I will do is I will convert every element in that array to its parent. So 1 will be converted to 1, 2 will be converted to 1, and 4 will be converted to 1, right? So in this way, I'll just convert everything to their parents, and I will just count the occurrence of 1. If all the elements have same parent, then basically, oh cool. So if all the elements have same parents, then same parent, then that means that all the elements are connected. If they are not, then so basically the number of parents is the number of connected components. So if there are multiple parents, then they are not connected. So I think I just got one new idea, and I think I will not need this count array, but let's see. So how I do it is I just map all of them. So I'm converting here. So for every node, for every vertex, I will convert it to. So this find actually gives that parent, top level parent, right? So I got the parent, and let b is equal to Bob. Roots map v dot Bob dot find v. Is that it? Yes, right. So what we did was like this find will actually find the parent, as we used here as well, right? So when I said that they both belong to the same component, I checked that thing only, that the parent of start and parent of end is same. So that is what I'm doing here, that I'm converting every element to its parent. And now it's easy. So what you can do is now you can make a count array of all the elements. For example, A contains 1, 1, 1, 1, that means that all the elements are connected to 1. That means all are connected to each other. But if there was 2, that means that some of the components are connected to 1, but one component is connected to 2. That means there are 2 components, and all are not connected, right? So in this case, we need to return -1. So how I did it during competition was I counted all of them and see that that there should be n, but now it's there is one simple way to do it is like let a set is equal to new set with a, let b set. So basically we just see how many elements are there. If a set dot size is not equal to, oh cool, is not equal to n, so I should be able to see a whole of the graph. B set dot size is not equal to n, then return -1, right? As I mentioned, so if my parents were like this, then the size of the set is not equal to 1 actually. If all elements are connected, the parent will be only single element. So that's why when I put it into the set, it will convert to 1, and the size of that set should be 1. But if there are multiple parents, the set will be 1, 2. When this is the case, then set of size of set will not be 1, and then we can say that everything is not connected. So that's it. So let's see if it gives the right answer for third case now. So it is giving -1 for everything. Awesome. So .log, let me just print a and b once. So it is giving -1 for the first one as well. Let me just quickly look. ls.roots.map. So A set and B set. Okay. And I'll also print roots. Comma. Cool. Let me just see if it is roots only. Yes. Oh, yeah, it is roots only. So I'll just only run for first case because the size of output. Oh no, I have 0 as well. So nothing will be connected to 0. So I'll just do this, or I can do this as well. So we have to remove one element in the beginning because we made from 0 to n and 0 is not there. So the 0 will always be there. So that's why. Oh, that's why it worked in competition, because I counted not equal to 1. Cool. So now it is giving 2 0 minus 1. So let's now try to submit it. So this is accepted. So I'll just explain once more what I did was how did I handle redundant edges. Was basically I made a union find data structure and started from third type of edge because I thought that removing third edge might not be a good idea. So I connected all the components which were connected by the edges I have traversed. When I look at any edge and I see that it is redundant by seeing that the start and end of that edge are already in the same component, I remove that edge. And that way I just formed two different union find structures for Alice and Bob. And to see if the whole graph is not traversable, I just check that if there is only one parent for all the components, right? So that's it. So hope this was helpful.